This is at the banquet for the Ministerial Association. That's Senator Judy Schwank. Where people do not know that she is pro-abortion. I'm sure they don't know about Planned Parenthood's genocide of African Americans. 12% of the population is African American.
Good evening, everyone. What an exciting evening. I have before me a certificate of recognition from my office and the Senate of Pennsylvania. And this certificate is entrusted to Pastor Alberta Jones. And our musicians too. Thank you.
Tell as many people as possible that you pro-abortion. And the people that I talk to here.
I gotta tell you, this is a little intimidating. This is a very splendid, elegant, and accomplished crowd. And when you see keynote speaker after your name, you get a little worried whether you're going to say the right things or whether people are going to relate to what what your thoughts are. But I couldn't be more honored to be here to speak before you because you truly are not just elegant but beautiful looking this evening. You're important. You are key to the future of this community. So I hope that this message will resonate with you. Everybody knows I'm a politician, I'm a state senator, and of course I represent the city of Reading and what's called the 11th District, which really I call the heart of Berks County. It goes through the center of the county, all the way from Kutztown and Maxitawny Township, all the way down to New Morgan and Morgantown. So I think I represent the moderate middle, and I try to also portray myself that way up in Harrisburg as well. And as a politician, aside from attempting to coax my colleagues into passing a reasonable budget on time, which we haven't been able to do just yet, my main responsibility is to listen to my constituents, to listen to the people, to try to find, not to sit in an office, but to go out and try to find out what people are really thinking, what they're doing, what they're engaged in, what their thoughts are. To hear their concerns, and then also to take those concerns to Harrisburg and make our Commonwealth a better place to live. You'd think that'd be easy, right? People always have something to say. I was at the Ole Fair today. I was saying at my table this evening, believe me, lots of people had stuff to say to me. Mostly stuff about, why don't you get a budget done? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? But I'd also like to hear about what people would like to see in our community. What are the things that you'd like to see happen there? But I need to hear it all. I need Reading's and Berks County's concerns and issues communicated to me. Residents need to be their own advocates, and sometimes that can be intimidating to them too. And that's where you come in. That's where church organizations like Rvma come in. An association like this one is a great opportunity or a vehicle for conveying the concerns and issues that matter to the people of Berks County and of Reading. Who knows what the community needs better than the church, right? I know that. I know that to be true. But too often, I find there is a misconception that churches cannot advocate for their communities. We've all heard the phrase, right? Separation of church and state. Most recently, we've heard a lot of that, quite frankly. You hear it time and time again. But I want to make it clear right from the outset, that's not what I'm about. That's not what we're talking about here tonight. We need you more than ever. We need you to be that bridge, that infrastructure that links us together. Bringing concerns to the attention of your local leaders is not what we mean by separation of church and state. Our nation's First Amendment protects churches from unnecessary state intervention. Here's what it says. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. I take this to mean church groups are more than welcome to bring their concerns to political leaders. In fact, you should be mandated to do that. That'd be something that you should all want to achieve, all of us. In 1958, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave a speech in Chicago called "A Knock at Midnight." Are you familiar with that? The talk was about how the church grapples with contemporary politics. And this is what he said: the church must be reminded that it is not the master or the servant of the state, but rather the conscience of the state. It must be the guide and the critic of the state, and never its tool. If the church does not recapture its prophetic zeal, it will become an irrelevant social club without moral or spiritual authority. We hear a lot of Dr. Martin Luther King's speeches, but that's one we don't often hear quoted. But to me, that is just as important as some of the other ones that we hear. I think a group like the Reading Vicinity Ministerial Association is exactly what Dr. King meant. A group that brings people together to keep the spirit and potential for community action alive. It's interesting to think that the association was founded by the Reverend Davis S. Brown, Reverend John McCracken, and Reverend George Owens 1 year before this speech was given. I wonder if they noted this. They wanted to bring people together for worship and fellowship. They certainly captured the spirit of what the Reverend Dr. King was speaking about. When Rvma was in its infancy, the civil rights movement was gaining momentum throughout the country. Though most people associate the civil rights movement with the southern states, racism was present.
Can I just interview you for 1 minute?
Sure.
Think about it.
I will, thank you.
And Minister Littlejohn will